February 24, 1944. Nightfall over Anzio, Italy. Two fully operational SCR 584s were hurried into the turmoil on February 24, 1944, and entrenched up to their trailer roofs overnight. The following night, 12 Nazi bombers entered beachhead airspace, only to lose 7 to the 90mm guns guided by the SCR 584. The statistics of this night would confound German intelligence for the rest of the war. 7 out of 12 bombers destroyed in total darkness, a 58% kill rate that defied all conventional knowledge of anti-aircraft warfare. Prior to this, even under perfect daylight conditions, anti-aircraft artillery averaged 1 kill per 2,500 rounds fired. The surviving German crews reported something unprecedented: flak bursts that shadowed their every maneuver, explosions appearing precisely where aircraft would be moments later, anti-aircraft fire that seemed to anticipate their moves. What eliminated these planes wasn't superior marksmanship or luck. It was the SCR 584, an automated microwave tracking radar system destined to transform air defense. This technology remained largely hidden from German forces throughout the war, even as it steadily undermined the Luftwaffe's operational effectiveness. The Luftwaffe had inadvertently entered the future of warfare, unaware. Their predicament had been accumulating since 1940, when British scientists shared the cavity magnetron with America through the Tizard mission. The British scientists brought their highly classified invention, crucial to the development of powerful radar systems, the 10 cm cavity magnetron. This single act of technological transfer had consequences that neither ally fully foresaw. While German radar development proceeded along conventional paths using meter wave technology, American engineers at MIT's Radiation Laboratory were creating something revolutionary. The SCR 584 was a technological marvel. It could detect aircraft up to 40 miles away and achieve range precision of 75 feet. Operating on microwave frequencies beyond the reach of German detectors, it transmitted 300 kilowatts pulses lasting 0.8 microseconds with a pulse repetition rate of 1,770 pulses per second. German radar warning receivers, designed to detect British radars operating between 200 and 600 MHz, were completely blind to these emissions. The technological advantage went beyond mere frequency differences. The SCR 584 employed automatic tracking using conical scanning. The radar beam rotated around its axis, creating a cone-shaped pattern that could lock onto and follow moving targets without human input. When paired with the M9 gun director, an analog computer with 160 vacuum tubes, the system could calculate firing solutions 30 times per second, compensating for wind, air density, target speed, and gravitational drop. The Anzio deployment marked a pivotal moment in anti-aircraft defense. Air raids ceased for a week. A single aircraft appeared to probe the defenses, only to be destroyed. 10 more systems were installed that week, neutralizing the aerial threat to Anzio. German bomber crews, who had successfully struck Allied positions for years, suddenly confronted something unprecedented. The system's effectiveness derived from full automation. Once an SCR 584 operator locked onto a target and switched to automatic tracking, the radar maintained the lock regardless of evasive action. Tracking data fed directly to the M9 director, which calculated where shell and aircraft would intersect. For 90mm guns, slaved to the director, moved in perfect synchronization. German crews observed an inexplicable phenomenon: flak bursts seemingly predicting their evasive maneuvers. When they dove, shells detonated at the bottom of the dive. When they turned, explosions appeared along their projected flight path. This was not conventional barrage fire, it was precision targeting executed by machines faster than humans could react. While German scientists hand-assembled radar units in small workshops, American industry mass-produced the SCR 584 with automotive efficiency. Around 1,700 SCR 584 workhorses were produced to defend against air attacks. Chrysler Corporation, the main manufacturer, applied assembly line techniques that transformed radar production from artisanal craft to industrial process. By August 31, 1943, 610 units had been delivered. Dodge Division shipped system number 1470 on January 28, 1944, with 628 additional sets assigned to the U.S. Marine Corps, coastal defenses, and spares, totaling nearly 2,980 units. This single company's output surpassed the entire German radar production during the war. The contrast highlighted fundamental differences in industrial philosophy. German Würzburg radar sets required skilled technicians for assembly, with each unit slightly unique. The SCR 584 utilized interchangeable components and modular construction, enabling rapid field repairs by soldiers with minimal training. Where Germany built dozens, America built thousands. During the June 6, 1944 invasion, 39 SCR 584 systems thwarted Luftwaffe attacks on the beaches. These units, specially waterproofed for amphibious operations, created an unprecedented defensive umbrella over history's largest invasion fleet. Oberst Joseph Pips Priller, one of only 2 Luftwaffe pilots to strike the beaches on D-Day, survived and later recounted anti-aircraft fire unlike anything he had experienced in 5 years of combat. Not indiscriminate barrages, but targeted fire that forced continuous evasive action, rendering accurate attacks impossible. The Luftwaffe's failure at Normandy wasn't due to lack of bravery or skill, it was a technological trap beyond their comprehension. Survivors reported the same phenomenon seen at Anzio, anti-aircraft fire that seemed to read their minds, predicting maneuvers before execution. The SCR 584's capabilities were also decisive against Hitler's V-1 flying bombs. Traveling at 400 miles per hour in straight, constant altitude paths, they seemed ideal targets yet were nearly impossible to hit with traditional methods. 20 SCR 584s were deployed along England's Channel coast, dramatically reducing the number of V-1s reaching London. 80 guns using proximity-fused shells destroyed hundreds. On one Sunday, 97 of 101 were shot down. Statistics documented a revolution in anti-aircraft effectiveness. 17% of incoming flying bombs destroyed in the first week, rising to 60% by August 23 and 74% in the final week of the month. On one extraordinary day, 82% were intercepted. Ammunition efficiency skyrocketed from 1 kill per 2,500 shells to 1 per 100, a 25-fold improvement that represented more than incremental progress. It marked the point where defensive weapons achieved superiority over attacking aircraft. German observers on the French coast reported V-1s being destroyed with short, precise bursts of 3 or 4 shells, a sight that contradicted everything they understood about anti-aircraft warfare. The German failure to identify the SCR 584 threat stemmed from a fundamental scientific miscalculation. In January 1943, German radar experts, led by Professor Abraham Esau, convinced the High Command that centimeter-wave radar was physically impossible. They argued that insufficient energy would return to receivers at such frequencies to be useful for detection. Based on this flawed theoretical analysis, Germany terminated all microwave radar research. When German forces captured a British H-2S radar in February 1943 and discovered it operated on centimeter waves, the revelation came too late. Germany had already fallen years behind in microwave technology, a gap that proved impossible to close during wartime. German intelligence consistently misinterpreted mounting evidence of Allied radar superiority. Pilot reports of impossible anti-aircraft accuracy were attributed to improved training, optical sights, or simply more guns. The possibility that Americans had achieved automatic radar tracking at microwave frequencies remained beyond German conception until late 1944. Throughout 1944, Luftwaffe electronic warfare units operated with equipment designed for an earlier war. The FUG 227 Fensburg detector searched for frequencies between 170 and 220 MGHz. The FUG 350 NACs covered 2,500 to 3,750 MGHz, closer to the SCR 584's range, but still unable to reliably detect its emissions. More fundamentally, German radar detectors were designed to identify search radars that swept beams across aircraft briefly. The SCR 584's conical scanning, which maintained continuous lock on single targets, produced emission patterns that German equipment didn't recognize as threatening. Luftwaffe crews flew into radar-guided death traps while their warning receivers remained silent. The system produced by Chrysler Corporation was named SCR 584 and was teamed with a heavy anti-aircraft battery of 490mm guns, a British-invented IFFF identification, friend or foe unit, a power source, and an M9 gun director. Each component represented American engineering superiority. The cavity magnetron generated 300 kilowatts of microwave power, more than entire German radar installations. The servo mechanisms for automatic tracking achieved precision that German industry couldn't replicate. The M9 director performed ballistic calculations that would have required teams of human computers. The integration of these technologies into a single weapon system represented a conceptual leap that German military thinking hadn't achieved. Designated the SCR 584 anti-aircraft gun laying system. About 1,500 of these were used in Europe and the Pacific starting in early 1944. Each system could track aircraft at 600 miles per hour, faster than any operational aircraft of 1944, providing future proofing that proved valuable when German jets appeared. By mid-1944, the Luftwaffe faced a crisis of unsustainable attrition. Galland reported that Luftwaffe had lost 38% of its fighter pilots in April 1944, while Luftwaffe III had lost 24%. Altogether, the Germans had lost 489 pilots, 100 officers, Galland reported. While training centers had forwarded only 396 new pilots, including 62 officers. These losses weren't solely from air combat. Increasingly, experienced pilots fell to anti-aircraft fire that exhibited impossible accuracy. Ground attack aircraft, essential for Wehrmacht tactical doctrine, became particularly vulnerable when operating within the SCR 584's optimal tracking envelope. Adolf Galland, in his post-war memoir, The First and the Last, wrote, by 1944, approaching Allied positions meant entering zones where death was mathematically calculated. The guns didn't aim where we were, but where we would be. There was no tactics against it, no countermeasure, only luck. In December 1944, during the Ardennes offensive, German forces finally captured a damaged but complete SCR 584 near St. Vith. Dr. Hans Pendel, Germany's leading radar expert, led the technical examination. His report to the High Command was devastating. The Americans have achieved automatic tracking with accuracy we believed impossible. They operate on wavelengths we cannot detect or jam with existing equipment. Most significantly, they mass-produce these systems while we struggle to build laboratory prototypes. We are not months behind. We are years behind with no possibility of catching up. The captured system revealed innovations that German science had deemed theoretically impossible. Automatic tracking, maintaining lock despite target maneuvers, electronic computation of three-dimensional firing solutions, and seamless integration of radar, computer, and weapons. But this knowledge came too late to develop countermeasures or equivalent systems. The technological helplessness experienced by Luftwaffe pilots contributed to the January 1945 fighter pilots' revolt. Leading aces including Adolf Galland, Johannes Steinhoff, and G.A. Lutt confronted Hermann Göring directly about the impossibility of their situation. Johannes Steinhoff, with 176 confirmed victories, told Göring, "We are not fighting enemy pilots anymore. We are fighting mathematics calculated by machines. Individual skill has become irrelevant against automation. You blame us for lacking courage, but courage cannot defeat technology we don't possess." These weren't defeatists, but Germany's most decorated warriors. Their recognition that traditional military virtues had become obsolete against automated weapons represented a profound psychological breaking point. Göring's response, relieving Galland of command and threatening courts-martial, demonstrated leadership's inability to accept technological reality. Even the revolutionary Me-62 jet fighter provided no escape from SCR 584 directed fire. The jet's 540 miles per hour speed, which made them nearly untouchable by Allied fighters, meant nothing to radar systems designed to track targets at 600 mph. Oberstleutnant Heber, one of Germany's most successful jet pilots, reported, "After the war, we believed our speed would protect us from flak. Instead, we discovered the American guns tracked us perfectly. The shells arrived exactly where we would be. Speed only meant less time to evade. We lost several jets to anti-aircraft fire that exhibited impossible accuracy." The SCR 584's ability to track and destroy jet aircraft demonstrated American foresight that German planning lacked. Built to specifications exceeding any aircraft operational in 1942, it remained effective against technology that wouldn't appear until late 1944. The production statistics revealed an industrial mismatch that doomed Germany, regardless of tactical innovation. American production: Chrysler Corporation alone, 298 units. Total confirmed production, over 1,700 units minimum. Additional units from General Electric and Westinghouse. Cost reduction from $50,000 to under $10,000 per unit. Monthly production rate 50 plus units at peak. German production. The total. Würzburg radar. Production approximately 1,500 units. Entire war. All German radar types combined approximately 4,000 units. Each unit essentially hand-built. No significant cost reduction achieved. Limited production capacity throughout war. This disparity reflected deeper advantages in American industrial culture. The SCR 584 was designed for operation by drafted civilians with 6 weeks of training. German radar systems required engineers and technicians with months of specialized education. Beyond specifications, the SCR 584 demonstrated practical advantages that amplified its effectiveness, setup, and mobility. Operational within 30 minutes of arrival compared to hours for German systems. This mobility proved crucial in Italy's fluid campaign, where the SCR 584 provided immediate air defense for advancing forces. Weather independence, continued operation in rain, snow, and fog that blinded optical systems. German radar performance degraded significantly in adverse weather. Maintenance simplicity. Modular construction allowed component replacement by operators. German systems required specialized technicians for even minor repairs. Crew requirements, 3 operators versus 8 for the German Würzburg Ray. Field Marshal Albert Kessler testified, after the war, American radar-controlled anti-aircraft fire made our tactical air support impossible by early 1944. The Wehrmacht, which had pioneered combined arms warfare, found itself fighting blind while the Allies observed everything from above. The campaign against V-1 flying bombs provided quantifiable proof of revolutionary advancement. Week 1, 17% interception rate, conventional methods. Week 4, 60% interception rate. Week 8, 74% average interception rate. Best day, 82% interception rate. Ammunition efficiency improved 25-fold. These statistics represented the first time in warfare that defensive guns achieved consistent superiority over attacking aircraft. The V-1, essentially a primitive cruise missile, flew predictable paths that should have made it an easy target. Yet, its 400 miles per hour speed had made it nearly invulnerable to conventional anti-aircraft methods. The SCR 584 changed that equation completely. German electronic warfare, highly successful against British radars early in the war, proved completely ineffective against the SCR 584. The Luftwaffe's sophisticated jamming equipment operating on meter wavelengths had no effect on microwave systems. German Doppelchaff cut to meter wavelengths was equally useless. The failure went beyond equipment limitations. German electronic warfare doctrine assumed adversaries used similar technology. The possibility that Americans operated on completely different physical principles remained unconsidered until captured equipment revealed the truth. By then, Germany lacked the resources and time to develop new countermeasures. The SCR 584's influence extended beyond aircraft destroyed. By making German reconnaissance impossible, it blinded Wehrmacht intelligence. German commanders couldn't observe Allied preparations, track troop movements, or identify weak points. This intelligence vacuum contributed directly to German strategic failures throughout 1944-45. General de Panzertrooper Usso von Manteuil, commanding 5th Panzer Army during the Battle of the Bulge, stated, "We attacked blind in the Ardennes. Our reconnaissance aircraft couldn't survive over Allied lines. We knew nothing of enemy reserves or movements. The element of surprise essential to our plan was impossible when only one side could see." For Luftwaffe aircrews, the SCR 584 represented something psychologically devastating: death delivered by machines that eliminated human skill from combat. Pilots who had trained for years, survived hundreds of missions, and earned their nation's highest decorations found themselves helpless against automation. The testimony of survivors reveals the psychological impact. Headman Heinrich Baer, who ended the war with 220 victories, stated, fighting enemy pilots was war as we understood it. Skill against skill, courage against courage. But the radar-guided guns weren't warfare, they were execution by mathematics. There was no honor in dying to a machine's calculations. This dehumanization of combat affected morale more than simple fear of death. Luftwaffe pilots had accepted mortality as part of their warrior ethic. What they couldn't accept was irrelevance, the reduction of their skills and experience to meaningless factors in an equation they couldn't influence. After Germany's surrender, Allied intelligence officers demonstrated the SCR 584 to captured Luftwaffe officers. Their reactions ranged from amazement to bitter recognition. Many expressed relief at finally understanding what they had faced. Dr. Wilhelm Rune, who had worked on German radar development, admitted in 1985, "We dismissed every report that contradicted our assumptions about American capabilities. We created elaborate theories to explain impossible anti-aircraft accuracy rather than accept the simple truth. They had better technology." This arrogance cost thousands of lives. The German military's institutional inability to recognize American technological superiority stemmed from deeper cultural assumptions. The Wehrmacht, which had pioneered military innovation in the 1930s, couldn't conceive that American engineers had surpassed German science. This blindness persisted even as evidence mounted throughout 1944. After the war, the radar was adapted for use in the A/MPQ-12 and A/MPM-38 systems, a U.S. Army Field Artillery Missile System, MGM-5. Corporal. The principles established by the SCR 584, automatic tracking, computer-controlled prediction, and system integration, became foundational for all subsequent air defense systems. Every contemporary surface-to-air missile system descends conceptually from the SCR 584. It demonstrated that effective air defense required removing human reaction time from the engagement loop. This lesson, learned through the destruction of the Luftwaffe's combat power, influenced military technology development throughout the Cold War and beyond. Although complete statistics are elusive due to wartime record loss, available data highlights the SCR 584's devastating effectiveness. Confirmed production, a minimum of 1,700 units, with Chrysler alone documenting 2,980. Peak production exceeded 50 units per month. Combat performance, on the first night at Anzio, 7 of 12 bombers were destroyed, a 58% kill rate. Against V-1s, peak interception reached 82%. Ammunition efficiency improved 25-fold. D-Day deployment of 39 units provided comprehensive air defense. Technological advantages were striking. Detection range 40 miles, double the German capability, accuracy 75 feet versus German 500+ feet, tracking fully automatic versus German manual, setup time 30 minutes versus over 2 hours for the Germans. The German encounter with the SCR 584 offers enduring lessons on technological surprise in warfare. Convinced of their superiority, constrained by theoretical assumptions, and unable to imagine American ingenuity, German leaders sent aircrews into a threat they neither understood nor could counter. General de Fleer Paul Deichmann summarized the failure: "We believed what we wanted to believe. Every contradictory report was dismissed. We couldn't accept that American engineers achieved what our scientists deemed impossible." By the time reality hit, the Luftwaffe as an effective force had ceased to exist. The failure was less about intelligence gathering than intelligence interpretation. German observers accurately reported American anti-aircraft effectiveness, yet the findings were disregarded because they contradicted entrenched assumptions about American capabilities. This cognitive blindness proved more damaging than any security breach. The SCR 584 embodied American industrial philosophy: mass production, standardization, and simplification. Instead of crafting perfect individual units, American engineers designed for reliable mass manufacture. This approach, derived from automotive production, proved superior to German artisanal precision in military applications. The contrast extended to operational philosophy. German military culture emphasized expertise and specialization, while American design emphasized simplicity and automation. The SCR 584 succeeded by removing human skill from the equation, making specialized knowledge unnecessary. This democratization of advanced technology was decisive in total war. The SCR 584 marked the end of aerial combat as a contest of human skill and inaugurated the era of automated warfare that persists today. For the Luftwaffe, this transition was a bewildering shock. They entered the war as knights of the air and exited as victims of mathematical computation. Johannes Steinhoff, reflecting decades later, provided perhaps the most perceptive assessment: the SCR-584 didn't just shoot down our aircraft. It destroyed our entire conception of warfare. We thought war depended on courage, skill, and willpower. The Americans proved it depended on technology, production, and automation. We were formidable warriors defeated by superior machines. The SCR-584 radar system stands as one of World War II's most decisive weapons, not merely for the aircraft it destroyed, but for what it represented, the triumph of systematic technological superiority over traditional military virtues. The Luftwaffe faced an adversary that couldn't miss because it eliminated human error from the targeting process. German pilots never fully comprehended the threat because their leadership refused to acknowledge it. Reports of impossible anti-aircraft accuracy were dismissed as exaggeration. Evidence of automatic tracking was deemed inconceivable. By the time German scientists examined captured SCR-584 units, the Luftwaffe had already been rendered ineffective. The Germans never realized that American radar annihilated the Luftwaffe because acknowledging this reality would have required admitting fundamental inferiority in science, industry, and military innovation, a psychological barrier insurmountable until defeat made denial impossible. For Luftwaffe aircrews facing the system, the SCR-584 was death calculated by machines, delivered with mathematical precision, and immune to human courage or skill. They entered an electronic killing zone where their fate had already been computed. The age of warrior pilots ended in the skies over Europe, destroyed by American radar that tracked invisibly, calculated instantly, and struck automatically. The legacy of the SCR-584 extends beyond wartime service. It established the blueprint for modern air defense and demonstrated that in technological warfare, the side that automates the kill chain prevails. The Luftwaffe learned this lesson through the systematic destruction of its combat power, aircraft by aircraft, executed by machines that never tired, never missed, and never showed mercy. The Germans realized too late that they were not fighting human gunners but American mathematics embodied in radar systems that turned the sky itself into a computed killing field. Their courage, skill, and experience became irrelevant factors in equations they could neither perceive, jam, nor survive. In this stark revelation lay the birth of modern warfare, where victory belongs not to the brave but to the technologically superior.